Hello and welcome to Live at 5. By now, hopefully you know what this is all about. It's me, Gareth Roberts, and Tim Paul Cope. We're from the Late Challenge podcast. Do check that out. We're on here, though, to talk about the Reds, and we're on here to talk about Liverpool now being unbeaten in 16 Premier League games. They've started this campaign at a pace. They've taken 13 points from a possible 15. They are in touching distance of the alleged rule breakers who are boring everyone by winning 5 out of 5. It now means that the Reds are considered equals to Arsenal, according to the bookies, in terms of a challenge for the title. But what we want to know is, how is your glass right now? Is it half full? Is it half empty? Is it both? Tell us, dive in the comments if you're watching this live. I've got a screen here with your comments on. If I spot some good ones, I'll give them a shout out. We'll use them as a jumping off point for discussion. But I just thought, you know, you might have seen the title of this show and thought, well, what are they on about here? And I just thought it was the perfect way to talk about Liverpool right now, especially based on the win at Molineux on Saturday, because that was almost the perfect example of how fickle football fandom can be. Because I've seen and heard almost every analysis you can possibly get of that match, including when I was in the ground, including online afterwards in the last few days. So Paul Cope, are you, I'm going to throw some things at you, bear with me, I've got some bullet points. Are you happy that Liverpool have shown spirit, resilience and quality to come from behind and win 3 times now, twice when ending the match with 10 men? Or are you concerned by 3 slow starts to games? Are you happy to see a local-ish lad in Gerald Quansah make his full debut at 20 years old and shine, by the way, in a hard-fought victory? Or are you concerned that in match 5 of the season, we've already seen him 3 times, 83 minutes against Wolves, 19 against Villa, 13 minutes against Newcastle United? He was genuinely good, by the way. And as Klopp said, the defence looked like it just met in the car park. Worth remembering on him, before we get into any discussion, that he's an academy graduate, but he's also played 15 games in League One for Bristol Rovers. Well, let's leave it. You can speak now. I could keep going with loads of if or this or this. But how do you feel? How do you feel about Saturday? How do you feel in general about where we are with Liverpool right now?
I think I'm a glass three quarters full.
Quarters, mate.
Type person, which ruins the whole idea of that saying. But yeah, each of those things you just read out, all of the above, and at the same time, with a big leaning towards, you might as well be positive about it all. Because I think we said a couple of weeks ago, especially with the Quansah, the transfer window's shut. There's nothing you can do about it now.
Not anymore, no.
You can whinge till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, he played, he was good, we won, and that's sound. So just be happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but people aren't, though, are they? I mean, some people
are never happy. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
But equally, aren't there things with Liverpool now where, that's allowed? Because, I get the thing, and it's generally my spirit of, and we talked about it before, go into a season and think you can win the lot. Go into the season and you can win the league, because why not? Because you know what, if you just talk yourself out of absolutely everything, so what are you doing it for? You're supposed to have hope. You're supposed to look on the bright side. You're supposed to dream and all that.
Yeah.
And, and when you do that, and when you do think that way, and if people are doing that en masse, it feels like it's sort of, there's a bit of an energy in the ground when it's like that. Equally, you can tell when that energy is not there. I mean, just to use them as an example, I wonder whether the energy will be there at all this season for Everton. I wonder whether they've used all that type of energy by pushing their fans into the dirt so many times with their performances and the way the club's run. We're not there, don't get me wrong. We're nowhere near that. We've made a great start to the season. But I think from here, it now starts to get interesting, both in terms of some of the fixtures that are coming up, but also that you're starting to go from, spaced out fixtures, if you like. To we've got Europe this week, we've got the League Cup next week, and okay, he'll probably play weakened sides in those competitions and that kind of thing. But nevertheless, it's another pressure, isn't it? And it's a different challenge, and it's you know, if you were there on Saturday and you know obviously you watched it, but you know, very early on, you're like, what's the setup here? Why did he look so mad? Why has he started McAllister, who, you know, the other day we seen like chonging on an oxygen bottle, do you know what I mean? And playing at altitude.
Playing on the top of a mountain somewhere.
Playing on the top of a mountain. Yeah. And like, you know, he was so fucked, you know, for want of a better phrase. He was red-faced, he was blowing for tugs. And like, it was like, and to be fair, Klopp said, I made a mistake, and he's hauled him off at our time. But you know, there's the Gomez thing as well. You know, he's getting absolutely ripped by Neto. He didn't really look what new. You know, he is not Trent, and he never will be Trent. And like, I don't know. I mean, it's good. It's good that there was a plan B. So you know, there's the glass half full.
Look, the glass half full side of that is better that we can have this conversation having won the game
100%.
And come back 3 times and won each one. That's the best bit of it all. And at the same time, I think that, like, the question marks for me still come back to it. It's mad this for me, because I love him and he's brilliant and he's a great manager and the coaching setup's been great for years and all that. But that, for me, that's where the question marks are in our club at the moment. It's a bit wild for even just to say this out loud now, because we didn't spend the money. We many of us question that, and I think the problem with even this, when Quansah plays and he plays well and we've won again, but we started poorly and you're playing, there's so many decisions within that you're like, who thought that is that the plan? Was that the plan for the season, that when Trent's missing, because he will miss games and we don't know how many, that's what we're going to do? We're going to play Joe Gomez in the same hybrid role. Because if that's the plan, I can't imagine you'll find many Liverpool supporters or football people that would be like, yeah, that's a good idea. That's like for like. And don't get me wrong, I saw Klopp say this before the match, like, you know, if you can find me another passer of the ball like Trent, sound, and I laughed myself. It's like, I'd love it for journalists to have a bit more of a laugh with him, do you know what I mean? And try and get some of that energy back, instead of it just being a bit of a like, it's turned, press conference to a large extent have turned into like, they're a bit adversarial, do you know what I mean? It's like us against the press against the manager and all.
I think he's after a quiet week, Klopp. I think that's what you know, if we're going to touch on that, I think that a lot of that was about that. I think it was kind of like a frustration of, we're playing Wolves away, it's an early game, and I just want like a quiet week.
Can you just give me some easy softball
and sort of, you know, like,
questions?
I mean, you know, there's residual beef, I think, with certain outlets and stuff like that. But equally, I think he just thought, you're asking me this question, and if I answer it in a certain way, it's going to create all headlines again. It's going to put us like top of the news. Yeah, and I can't be bothered.
Yeah. Well, it didn't help. And it didn't help the whole press conference started with a question about Salah and the transfer window.
That was mad,
and he's
though,
like,
wasn't it?
come on.
I know.
Come on.
Mad.
But I think that's the issue with those things. And the fact that exactly what you just said, like, when you're picking, managers all say the same thing. There were loads of mad team selections over the weekend, and managers all say the same thing. I'm picking a team that's best placed to win this game based on all of the, you know, what's gone on. And like you just said, surely they haven't looked at all the lads who've been away on international duty and all the lads they had left to pick from, and have gone, yeah, McAllister should start this game. And it's things like that worry me. So like, we supported the signing of Endo. Me and you were both happy with it, blah, blah. But if you're not playing him against Wolves when McAllister's been in that, you know, in that condition, or you didn't even need to play Endo. You could, you know, start the way we finished the game, playing Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones there in a 6-6. To go with McAllister will be fine. Surely you had the information to say, well, he's already playing like in a new position. Yeah. To make him do that when he's been playing on top of a mountain and taking oxygen. Like, Klopp even joked after the match, didn't he? Like, you should have left the oxygen mask on for longer. And like, funny joke, mate, but you knew he was doing that before you picked him to play in this game. The other thing about and I do think hopefully these are just lessons that they'll learn from and pick up from. Like, the idea, and even if it had been Trent playing right back, the idea of doing this hybrid thing when the other team has a boss left winger, I think is just a bit daft. Like, I don't know did you see any of the City game with their new lad? like Doku.
I've seen his goal.
Jesus Christ. Like, if we do that against City and he plays left wing, he is going to have a field day. Because even if you were like, do you know, think about a traditional, good, solid, normal right back, like say Wan-Bissaka at United, he was a traditional old school fullback. Or go back to our days, like my favourite player, Rob Jones, proper old school right back. He would struggle one-on-one against a boss winger like Doku or Neto, who was like in great form. You can't then ask that same lad to go and do a half of another role. It's too much. I think there's just got to be certain games where you go, no, just this is a game in which you play right back and you just block out that. And I know there's counter arguments to that because you can say, yeah, we'll give them something to worry about, blah, blah, blah. But I just think I've jumped around a bit here because I was going to say about the entertaining thing. I'd have loved someone to say to Klopp, we should have just bought Kevin De Bruyne. So if you want someone who can pass it like Trent to play when Trent's not playing, because maybe they got a smile out of him, because obviously I'm not saying we could have ever bought someone who could have done what Trent can do when Trent's not there. But what we could have done is bought someone who gave us more options than we've got when we haven't got that many players out and we're already a little bit stretched at the back. That's my concern is, I guess...
Well, it's four players out, isn't it? It's 4 players out at the weekend.
But who, like, I'm talking about, is Van Dijk and Trent from the back line.
Canate deemed not fit to start, which is why playing.
If you want to count him as well. But then it doesn't take much for that to happen, does it? That's the problem. Yeah, but he's not a defender, is he? I'm just talking about the back line. But yeah, if you want to talk all 3, I'm sure Klopp would say to me, and other managers would say, yeah, well, if any team has 3 defenders out, it's gonna cause you problems.
I imagine that's exactly what I'd say. Yeah.
But that's my concern. Like on the glass half full thing, there's just like an undercurrent for me, are we going to get to the end of the season and it's going to be another season where we're like, if only we'd have just had one more lad?
Yeah, I mean, with Endo, you know, I mentioned already that obviously, you know, the fixtures start to ramp up now, and, you know, European campaign starts on Thursday. I imagine surely he's getting some minutes there. You know, they expect him to maybe start that game because we need to start seeing him now, don't we? Properly see what he can do, get him bedded in. I mean, the counter argument to, you know, why don't we see him at all at Wolves is, you know, and the glass half full as well is, they were great second half. And I'm, you know, I thought it was a combination of Liverpool being much, much better, Liverpool having a better plan, obviously McAllister not being on the pitch, Diaz being on the pitch, all the substitutes worked, all the substitutes were positive. You know, straight away you could see the difference with Diaz being on the pitch. He's getting into the box, he's taking players on, Nunes the same. And what I really liked about the performance as well is, you know, seen before, not just Liverpool, any football team, where in that situation, you know, our frustration can build up, can't it? And you start taking like pot shots, you know, like doing a love run and like booming it over the bar from 40 yards or whatever. I love
the way, no matter what he did in his career for us, he'll forever be remembered for that.
I know.
People mention that more often than he's mentioned his winner against Dortmund. That's mad, isn't it? I know,
it's harsh, isn't it? But yeah, it is what it is.
Imagine if you could have stopped him before he had the shot and gone, lad.
Just don't, mate. No, but you know, I feel like they're trusting themselves is what I was going to say, because this is essentially a rebuild. You know, we're in the middle of a rebuild, and you know, like senior midfielders, a big load of senior midfielders have left the club in the summer. You know, Szoboszlai, we're raving about him once again. He was brilliant second half against Wolves. He's 22. He's 22 and he's only just walked through the door. And
well, did you send me a clip of him saying it? I feel like we're mentioning him a lot lately. Mark Goldbridge. Is it Goldbridge? And he made that point. He said, give them credit. We've rebuilt our midfield and it's boss.
And we're right up there.
And I think even, to be fair, like even me, I was going to say us, but I won't bring you in on me. Like, thanks. I haven't given them enough credit for that. Like, it is boss what they've done. Like, to have bought Szoboszlai and McAllister, and it just looked like
and for the fees they got them for.
Oh, unbelievable.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking about this the other day. We basically got both of them for the price of Bellingham or Caicedo, didn't we? Which is unbelievable business. When everyone's been saying there's no value in that area anymore, you're like, well, that's bullshit.
I'm seeing mainly positive in the comments, which is good. People are saying Ian Matthews, short at the back, but a team that plays 60 minutes that bad and then wins 3-1, it makes us title challengers. Okay, I like that. Christian says it's boss to see a young player from the academy getting the chance to play for the first team and do a good job. We'll see how it goes, but I, for one, always applaud our own players. I do, and you know what? Like I went down and met Stu at half time, who I went the game with. We were in different, we weren't sat with each other, and one of the first things after what the fuck was that was he's done well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like, it was a shame really that he had to go off with an injury in the end, because I thought he did really well. We talk about pressure on footballers. I mentioned before that, he's played for the academy and he's played for Joey Barton, lower down the leagues. That was a big moment for him to come in, and then to come in and they're playing bad, and to come in and Wolves are like taking on 3 or 4 players and everyone's like falling away, and it was all over the show a bit. I guess the going back to glass half full, glass half empty. Glass half empty is Wolves could have beaten and probably should have been 2-0 up and made the comeback even less likely. If you're wondering why it says, and for those listening to this later as a podcast, our little sign today says God save the King, ha. And that's basically because Wolves fans decided to sing that to us, to taunt us, to wind us up. And then Liverpool scored shortly after. So thanks for that, lads.
Yeah, nice one for the motivation.
That turned out really nice.
I think it's worth saying on the Quansah thing, because I saw someone have a pop on me on Twitter after a clip was like, I love when people comment on clips, and like it was in the context of an hour-long conversation or whatever it was. But criticising Joe, saying, he is fundamentally not good enough to be where he is in our squad setup right now. And I want to make it clear that this is not me criticising him as a footballer, because someone said to me, you don't even know you didn't even know his name and you're criticising him. And you're like, no, I'm not criticising him as a player. Like, I think he looks good and he's got huge potential and he's phenomenal. My point is, he's 20, isn't he? Yeah. Like, we all know, especially with defenders, like the difference in like progression of footballers. For a 20-year-old central defender to be at the level we need them to be regularly it's going to be highly unusual if he can do that. That's my only point. Like, I'm sure in 5 years' time,
he won't play most
phenomenal.
of the time, will he? He won't. No, because the first choice is Van Dijk and Konate.
But this is the problem, isn't it? He won't play most of the time if the others stay fit. And that was my general point.
I get that.
We're relying on 3 lads especially staying fit who have got a history of not staying fit.
Yeah.
So he might end up playing that. I think my point is, whoever that player is in our squad list, i.e. the next defender down after our first choice defenders, is probably going to get a lot of games this season because of the injury record of 3 of the 5 that we've got. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that player for me should be a more senior player. That's the only point. I think I fully back him. I think he looks great and I think he's got a great career ahead of him. I just think if it all comes back to as well, what are your expectations on what you want from this season? I think we could win the league this season. And I wasn't saying that months ago. And I just think if you'd have had just one more, not just experience, but I was thinking this about the dynamic of that player in the squad. Just someone who's a bit more of a utility defender, who can play anywhere across the back 4. That would have changed a lot in our setup. But
maybe when they've profiled it and when they've looked at who's available and where they are in contracts and all of that, they've concluded there isn't anyone.
That is what they've done, isn't it?
That looks. But
I think this is my point. Like, we know we wanted Levi Colwill. Is it Colwill?
Yeah, the lad at Chelsea.
At Chelsea.
Yeah, and then he signed a new 7-year deal.
And this has happened before. Yeah, so this has happened before. We want this lad, which tells us, right, you know for a fact, they don't think Quansah should be where he is now. They wanted to give him more development time before he was thrown into this because they wanted somebody else. By them not going for anybody else, what they're effectively saying impliedly is there's nobody on the scale between Quansah and Colwill that we could get that was good enough. And I just don't buy that. That's just a decision that they've gone, nah, we either get our best or we don't get anyone, and then we give this lad a go. And look, the reasonable side of me, the glass half full side of me goes, yeah, that's worked out well for us in half of Klopp's seasons. Maybe more than half. But there have been a couple of seasons where it not only didn't work, it didn't work and it went badly wrong. And that's my concern.
Yeah,
So,
I get that. I mean, I wanted to mention Harvey Elliott as well. You know, you can do a glass...
He's a new mixed bag player, isn't he?
Well, yeah,
for us,
and that's why we're doing him on this show, because he's another one where you can be glass half full or glass half empty about him. I like him. You know, I like him. I like him coming off the bench. I think every single time I see him, he puts absolutely everything into it. So, you know, he'll come off the bench and he's one of the, he chases down absolutely everything. You know, he's pressing everywhere. He'll follow the ball round and round and round and keep it, you know, he's brilliant for that aspect. I think technically he's a good player. He's got a goal in him. And, you know, it was unfortunate that, you know, the goal was taken off him. And
what's your view on that?
Should have been his goal, shouldn't it? I mean, where's the fun in giving it as an og? You know what I mean? It's shit.
The mad thing for me is, like, the only people on the planet who think that shouldn't be given to the lad who hit the ball are the 3 people or whatever it is on that panel, isn't it? Everybody else, if you said to the Wolves defender,
doesn't want it,
do you want that as an own goal, mate, to stop him getting the goal? He'd be like, no thanks, give it to Elliott. Elliott wants it. We all want Elliott to have it. The fans all want Elliott to have it. Just let him have it.
Bless Alada says, you don't have a point on Kwanzaa. He's great. I wonder what your problem is. What's your problem, Kobe?
I don't know. What? I mean, how long have we got?
I mean, you just explained that length about the idea of where he was on the scale and where, you know, the lad at Chelsea was. And
what's his name?
I think he's explained it, mate. But,
did he zone out for that bit? Maybe he's done that thing that we all do where you just zone out sometimes.
Well, on Elliott,
he was too busy typing his comment.
On Elliott, I see similar sort of stuff at times about him. We've received comments about him in content we've made about Elliott that he's not good enough and all this kind of stuff. Seems to be a recurring theme with Curtis Jones as well. And, like, you know, to go all the way back to Bill Shankly, and I can almost hear the collective groan out there. But he talked about, didn't he, about the fellas to push the piano and the ones who can play it. And I think that's a good way to think about football, and certainly football squads. And the idea that everyone in your squad is this, like, unbelievable world-class player. It's just not, I don't think it's realistic, because you've got all of these competitions. So you know, your squad's going to get a go. But also, that's fine. But the lads who play more often than not, and if you do the numbers for Liverpool, if you do them for City, if you do them for anyone, there's always a core that play the majority of games. And so most players want to be in that core. They don't want to be the squad ones. And so I think it's really hard to always say, and buy another belter, and buy another belter, and buy another. It's not realistic. And I just think, you know, you've got to have your Curtis Jones, your Harvey Elliott. You've got to have and they're both young lads, by the way. You know, Elliott's 20, isn't he? I think Curtis Jones is 22. They've still got development in them. I personally think you've seen development in both of them, but other people tell me not. But, you know, look at him come on. He's forced a goal. You know, that's the best pair of yellow cards I've ever seen in my life, that the pair of them end up booked for jumping in the Liverpool crowd. And brilliant celebrations, brilliant way to get a win, you know, brilliant for the feel good as well. You know, this is another thing, like, I wondered about this season, and I was like you, I looked at it before a ball was kicked and said, I don't think we challenge for the title this season. Now I think, with a strong wind, with a bit of luck around injuries, could this be one of those unlikely title challenge seasons? So, you know, like, who thought in 13-14 we were going to go for the title?
Yeah.
And then it happened, and we loved it, and we were on this, like, journey, and it just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. And, like, already it's rolling here, isn't it? Like, Newcastle, it was done. We were down to 10 men. We were never going to win the game. We won the game. Here, we were absolutely shit for a half. It's not working. It's unraveling. Neto's ripping us apart. They should be 2-0 up. Second half, they come out, they win it, and they win it comfortably, they win it well, and they're stars in that performance. Szoboszlai's brilliant, Robertson's brilliant, it's a good goal, etc., etc. You know, and so it's like all this, you know, their spirit, and it's another thing I always say, like, I know what it was like to be in the away end at Molineux. It was absolutely brilliant. Everyone was absolutely buzzing, thousands of smiling faces and all that kind of stuff. And I always say, imagine what it was like in the changes as well. Imagine what it was like on the coach home. Yeah. Imagine what it's like in training this week. All of those things, they'll be buzzing. Yeah. The manager will be buzzing. The players will be buzzing. And so while you've got this spirit, and while you're on this run, 16 unbeaten in the league, Bolton on the end of last season, but who knows? Like, surely you don't rule it out at this stage.
Yeah, 100%. The counter argument to that is, and I'm with you with all of that, and I do think, I've said before, we're the type of club that can catch a wave and just ride it. It depends how long you can ride it for. The counter argument to it is, we're already expending a lot of energy to win football matches. And if you look at the way title sides, like when we won the title, that's not how we won the title. And I saw people saying last year,
no, that's true.
I think Carragher and Neville both said it at different times. Arsenal were celebrating winning games like they'd won the title halfway through the season. And Carragher went, you just can't maintain that level of emotion. Like, at that stage of the season, it needs to be methodical. You need to be just keeping clean sheets, winning games 1-0, 2-0. But the counter argument, my own counter argument, is, well, Man City have won 5 out of 5, but they've had to expend quite a lot of emotion and energy to do that record this year. Away to Sheffield United was by no means an easy win.
Yeah.
And then at the weekend again, I was watching that game, like, West Ham were ahead. And had all the chances to score again, and that game could have gone a different way on another day. So, I do think
they might have bad luck. Like,
exactly. I do think
they've got all the money in the world and the bending rules and all the rest of it. But equally, they could still just have things that can happen in football. And Liverpool have got to be ready for if that happens.
100%. But and it's not just bad luck.
You can have unlikely titles sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Who thought Leicester would win the league?
Exactly. But I think the other thing to bear in mind this year as well is, I do think, and I wanted to look this up actually, and I need to look at this, what their fixture list is, because I do think there are just more sides in the league now who could take points off City. Like, I think it'll be interesting to see when City have to play us, Arsenal, Spurs now, and Brighton, because I think all of those sides could take points off City. And if it's like, we all need to gang up on them. If we can all chip away at them when we play them, it just keeps them in the pack. And as long as we can all keep them in the pack, it gives everyone a bit more hope. I just want to make a point about the thing you said about, all the players, and we've seen this before. Some fans think every one of your players needs to be a world beater. Me and you haven't even talked about this off air, but I thought Klopp's reaction to Henderson's interview was boss. Like, and it was interesting what he said. And I did think, I wonder how Henderson's reacted to that behind the scenes, because he basically proved the point you're making, and he was our captain. Like, he basically said, when Jordan Henderson's brilliant, he's a brilliant pro, and he's a brilliant lad to have around when he's in the team. But when he's not, he's a fucking pain in the arse. And that's your point. And that would apply to loads of lads who think they should be first choice. Yeah. So you can't afford to have loads of lads in your side who are a fucking pain in the arse when they're not in the first team. You need lads like Harvey, Elliott, who when they're not in the first team are still working their bollocks off and setting an example and being positive and saying, I'll come on and change the game. That's what you need in a squad.
Yeah, I mean, he loves it, Elliott, doesn't he? He absolutely loves it. Like, we know he's a Liverpool fan. We know he's basically like living the dream. But he also looks like he is constantly.
Well, that celebration said everything.
The celebration, yeah. But not even that. It's just like, you see him all the time, like trying to G the crowd up when he comes on and things like that. Yeah. And I think he understands the connection better than some of them, better than a lot of them. Not just like Liverpool. I'm talking about footballers generally. Yeah. He gets the thing about, the crowd and the players are hand in hand here. And sometimes one needs, so we're, traditionally we're meant to encourage them, but there's nothing wrong sometimes with them encouraging you. And when you see like spirit in a lad like that, it's what you want to see as a supporter. Because I always say the base for any professional footballer at that level is, we want to see you put everything in. We want to see, sweat on your forehead, mud on your shirt. We want to see like maximum effort, and then obviously you add your skill on top of that, but that should be the bare minimum. And for me, you always get that from Elliott. And like, I don't really see anything about Jones. I don't get like the sort of some of the hate that I see for him online. I mean, it's probably more a thing about sort of society and the internet and all that kind of stuff again. But like, if he was a player that hadn't come through the ranks and wasn't a Scouser, would more people like him then?
I don't get this though, dude. Like, no, I don't understand that. We've seen it happen at Everton with Ross Barkley. Like, I don't understand why everybody is harsher on the local lad. Yeah. Surely we all want the local lad to do well.
What we talked about, I think we touched on this once before. Or no, you know what it was? It was Curtis Jones did an interview, and I retweeted it and sort of put like, I think what I'm saying now, that I think he gets some unnecessary stay. I actually got quite a few replies off like sort of older Reds as well, saying this has always been a thing. You know, it's always been a thing that like they're under a harsher microscope almost. Like, you know, like Sammy Lee and things, you know, going back to those days even.
There's like a higher standard for them to hit for some reason.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I would say it's boss when someone comes through locally, and especially like, you know, you couldn't be more town almost than Curtis Jones where he's grown up. He's like the Scousest of Scouse, and so, you know, you've got people surely then in his community now playing football, kids who go, there is a pathway through. You know, it's because we always go on about like it's a global game now, and every transfer window is about 2 billion got spent by Premier League sides and all that, and it looks more and more about superstars and money and all the rest of it. It's romantic. It's brilliant that, you know, like that you have a lad coming through. And I think with Jones, like he's tempered some of his like natural sort of, he wants to be doing Rabonas and putting things in the top bin. He's become more of a system player. You know, he's adapted to what the manager wants from him, and that's why he's getting time in the side. And I again, like I say, you know, Liverpool are in Europe. Liverpool are in the League Cup. Liverpool have got, you know, the FA Cup to come as well. You need players that can come in and play in these games.
I don't know, but mate, even just forgetting all of that, like just as a footballer and his performances, I don't see. But I mean, I understand. Basically, it's what lens are you watching a footballer through? I've done this in the past, Joe, sitting next to someone who hated Lucas Leiva, and I'm watching Lucas Leiva, loving Lucas Leiva, and we're watching the same game, and all his filter's doing is picking out all the shit things that Leiva does. And all my filter's doing is picking out all the good things. So he'd literally go to me like, see, you just misplaced another pass. But then when he'd do a boss tackle, he wouldn't go to me, oh, I've just seen him do a boss tackle. Yeah. His brain's literally filtering it out. Because I watch Curtis Jones' performance, and that can be the only explanation for me as to why people don't like him. Because just as a footballer, especially that run at the end of last season, what more do you want? Like, he's playing well, as you say. He's adapted his game. He's playing well in the system. He closes down well. He's energetic. He's fairly quick. He's fairly big. And he was scoring goals. And you're like, I don't know what more do you want from this kid? And same for Harvey Elliott in many ways.
100%. I got up because you asked the question. City's games that are coming up, they've got a Red Star, wow, in the Champions League at home, followed by Nottingham Forest at home. Newcastle away, Wolves away, Leipzig away, Arsenal at home. They've got Brighton at home in October.
Why does City always seem to have boss fixtures?
They've got the Manchester derby the end of October, but I mean United look absolutely shite. So you know that.
So their only toughish game coming up is Newcastle away, but even that doesn't look like
Chelsea away in November, us at home in November.
So their big away games are in the second half of the season then?
Yeah.
Plus Arsenal, Spurs.
I think we should avoid talking about them because it just annoys me. I mean, what I want to talk about as well with the glass half full, half empty thing is I keep saying, you know, that things are now going to change a little bit for Liverpool in terms of the challenge. So we've got Lask on Thursday, then we've got West Ham on Sunday, followed by Leicester at home in the League Cup, followed by a trip to Tottenham. Then another game in the Europa League the following Thursday. Then Brighton away the Sunday after that. And then there is an international break. And then Liverpool return with a Merseyside derby. And guess what time that kicks off at?
12:30 on a Saturday.
Yep. But that's some of those, you know, Tottenham away, Brighton away, and this sort of, you know, added thing of extra fixtures now. You know, how do you see Liverpool sort of coping with that? Where's your glass about that fixture list?
I think this is one of the reasons and it sounds like a mad thing to say because everyone always says not having Champions League football is a reason not to buy more players and good players. But it was partly because we're in the Europa League. I was like, no, we can afford to have more players this year. Because going back to what we were just saying about, you know, people being left out, Klopp's even referenced himself. There's loads of opportunities for players to play. Because look at the fixtures we've got in the Europa League. Like, we can play, you can do a full rotation. We've got enough lads to like change everybody pretty much and still have a good enough side to beat these sides we're coming up against, or at least to get through the group stage. So it doesn't worry me at all. I actually think this run of fixtures is good for us because we can keep everybody in rhythm. We can keep everyone happy.
We can play Ben Doak.
Yeah. Which everyone's desperate for.
Everyone's desperate to see him get some proper time, see where we're at with them.
And what that means is when you need those lads for the first team, everybody's fit and everyone's firing. It's something we've struggled at in the past.
We can give Elliott a game.
Exactly.
Because he deserves a game, because he's buzzing.
And that keeps him happy because he's getting a start. All these strikers we've got that, it's going to be hard to balance them during the season. So making sure they've all get to play, actually start games.
What are we going to do about Mo, though? Like, are we going to say to Mo, you can't play, mate? Because he loves playing, doesn't he? He loves playing like every game. Gets a cob on him, he doesn't play.
I reckon it's one of the hardest conversations in football to tell Mo Salah he's not playing.
I know, so do I.
Don't you? Because he's just like, and fair, we and you've referenced this a lot, and we'll carry on referencing it, and we should. Like, he's a machine. So, part of me just play, lad. But then Ben Doak, that's Ben Doak's position as well, isn't it? So,
there you go. So maybe that's the show.
Imagine that conversation with Mo Salah. No, you can't play, mate, because Ben Doak's got to play and the internet want him to play.
Yeah, don't you like him? Don't you want to see him do well? You're all ass. Yeah, we're going to talk in depth about sort of Liverpool in Europe on our Wednesday show on This Is Anfield. So tune in for that one. You can watch that on YouTube on Wednesday. You can listen to it as a podcast on This Is Anfield's feed, as you can this show as well. So, people are commenting away watching this live. But if for any reason you ever can't watch it live, you can watch it whenever you want, and you can listen to it as a podcast as well. On the 12:30 things, I wanted to touch on that. We've still got about sort of 10 minutes or so, I think. Entering conspiratorial territory for a moment here, because this has been something that's sort of been ticking away in my mind, really. So it's factual that Liverpool have been getting more 12:30 kickoffs than other clubs. It was out there. There was a tweet from I think he worked for Opta, Michael Reed. He put out a tweet on Saturday saying tomorrow's game v Wolves. So Friday, sorry. He said tomorrow's game against Wolves will be Liverpool's 12th Saturday lunchtime kickoff in the Premier League, immediately following an international break under Jurgen Klopp, including 8 away from home. This is now double any other Premier League team since he joined. So if he gets a cob on about that, hasn't he got every right to? And like I don't know if you've seen it, there was a really shit argument, I thought, from Ian Dark, he's a broadcaster, he does stuff, you may have heard of him, he's on Sky sometimes. Yeah,
just boxing, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he does footy as well, though, and he was sort of saying, well, Liverpool will have voted for this. I don't get why he's getting angry. He should get angry at his owners then. And it's like, well, but there are all the other clubs as well, mate. So that doesn't even work, does it? Because even if Liverpool...
they didn't vote to be picked double the amount of times everyone else has.
And the idea that it can't be moved and that there aren't other slots, that, there needs to be a fairness around these slots, surely. Because, there is obviously a situation around prep and all that kind of stuff. And they have to change the routine and all that. So the manager's raised it. And, you had that Blurt for BT Sports grandstanding with him that time, Des Kelly. But I know loads of people sort of think Klopp's a narc and all this kind of stuff. But he's right, isn't he, about these kickoffs? But the conspiratorial bit is, do you think Liverpool have now got up some noses somewhere? And it's almost like someone's taking the piss a little bit here with these kickoffs, but even with the referee and stuff. Like, people might say this is a bit tin hat, but like Van Dijk getting the extra match ban for basically swearing and having a pop at the referee. Well, is Jordan Pickford going to get a ban because he called the referee a fucking prick on Sky yesterday? I saw him when I was sat in my living room. So, are equal standards being applied here? Do we have a right as Liverpool fans to be saying, it's not right, this?
Well, I was just about to say, that if they don't know already, they best get used to every single time a player abuses a ref this year, it's going to be highlighted by millions of Liverpool fans.
Well,
that's all that's happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you see him?
PGMOL.
It wasn't just
PGMO. Is she in this clip?
Yeah, it wasn't just Pickford. There was someone else as well got sent at the weekend. Yeah. It was like, and he swore at the ref as he went, are you going to do him? And it's like, yeah, funny. But you know what? I was just looking at that list, and it's mad because Joe, that Michael Reed one you mentioned, he said, this is now double. So the 12th Saturday lunchtime kickoff after an international break is now double any other Premier League team since he joined. but I love digging into stats properly. That's double the next highest. So we've got 12 and Spurs have got 6.
And it's going to be 13 when we play Everton.
Yeah, but that's just double the next highest. We're actually 3 times what City have had. City have only had 4. So against our direct rivals in that time, that's a massive disadvantage, isn't it? But I mean, look, you can go down the conspiracy theory route, but I think there's an easier answer, and it's just something. I think that's sort of what Des Kelly was maybe trying to get at when he was, but maybe I'm being too kind to him.
Yeah, don't be kind to him.
Like, why are Liverpool? How do you answer the question? Why are Liverpool picked by BT more than anyone else? You're like, because more people watch Liverpool.
Well, that was Ian Darke's point as well. Like, that Liverpool are a big club, and that people want to see the big clubs play. But you just literally said, well, City got picked 3 times.
Yeah, but
people not want to watch City. Then no.
But I think that's the point, isn't it? The only thing that shocks me and sort of counters my point in that is that Man United have only been picked 5 times. So I'd have thought the teams they'd want to pick the most are Liverpool and Man United, because the 12:30 kickoff is also for international audiences, isn't it? So but then even saying that, surely there has to be some rule put in around it to make it fair, even if it is because of popularity of ratings and stuff like that and viewing numbers. Surely they can't just keep picking the same side in the same slot.
Well, Arsenal are popular, aren't they? Yeah. Arsenal are a big club. Arsenal went for the title.
Yeah. Arsenal have been picked 3 times.
3 of them since Klopp's been. So, to be picked that many times, he has every right to have a cob on about it. And okay, maybe shouldn't have extended his ire to, a particular journalist, and, and then it looked a bit sort of, it didn't look great optically, if you like. But I fully understand there's frustrations around it. Well, anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Well, let's have a quick look in the comments before we go. I mean, people there as well saying, that there is the 8 o'clock slot that we've seen happen before as well on a Saturday. And I think certainly fans who go the match enjoy that one, because it's sort of like, it's like a night out. A night out at the match. What's wrong with that? Like if you've got box office and stuff, well, that's nice in box office, isn't it? 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, Liverpool, blah, blah. And, and we'd have our recovery time and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, it doesn't add up. And I can totally understand why behind the scenes they must be absolutely...
I think it's worth throwing in though, like it feels to me like one of those things where, and I haven't had a little pop at Klopp and the coaching staff over the weeks, including today, to defend them on this one. To me, that this feels like something that he shouldn't have to be putting himself in that position all the time to be criticising it. This is for someone behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This feels like, I think something that's often lost in the whole Man United domination period.
Well, maybe John Henry can, come out of his, his thing and say, and he can say something.
Well, it should be someone with influence behind the scenes. What was the? My brain's gone blank now. What was the chief exec at United called when Ferguson was there?
Martin Edwards.
No, it was the other guy, and he was brilliant. Gill, and you could tell behind the scenes. David Gill was like Ferguson behind the scenes, doing all the fucking deals, sorting all the shit out, speaking to all the FA people, making sure they were getting like advantages when they could get advantages. That's what we need. We need someone like that who's taking this weight off Jurgen Klopp and saying, don't put your neck on the line in press conferences. I'm going to box this off by going to the people I need to go to and saying to BT, TNT, whoever it is, no, this can't happen anymore.
Right, okay. Well, we're going to leave it there. We are back on Wednesday talking about Liverpool in Europe, talking about the Europa League challenge, talking about what the side might be, how seriously we might take it. Do we want to win it? How important is the UEFA Cup / the Europa League? All of those things. We do want to give a shout out to our other thing as well, which is the late challenge. If you haven't had a go at that, please do so. We are on YouTube. We are also available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And basically, if you don't know what it is, it's basically a load of middle-aged meandering and us talking bollocks. But people like it, don't they, mate? So,
seem to me, yeah.
So dive over there, subscribe, hit the old subscribe button on the channel. Watch a couple of shows. Let us know what you think. Keep tuning in here as well. I would say we're still very much in the seeing how this goes stage. So if you want this to continue and you want it to still be a thing, share it, talk about it, tune in each week, comment, all of those things. Do those things that, you know, you always hear content creators ask you to do, because it does mean that we can keep on doing it. But for now, this has been Live at 5. We should be back next week. Guess what? At 5 on Monday. And we're back on Wednesday as well. So look out for all of those things. And, of course, up the Reds.